online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound, the Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Good evening, welcome to episode 5 of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. 4 games down in the Championship, no points, no wins, no goals.
Don't say it.
But on the positive side, we've still got more points than Sheffield Wednesday.
That is very true, yes. Long may that continue as well.
Yes, they're on -7, which is, it's better than they started on.
Well, yeah, yes, I suppose it is. If you were doing the Sheffield Wednesday podcast, what would you now be saying? You'd be saying, yeah, well, -7, that's good, definitely better than -12.
Just 2 wins and a draw away from...
Not as bad as Luton that season when they started on -30.
No. Interesting you mentioned Luton as well, because Luton is the game that you were at Kenilworth Road on Saturday.
Yes, I was. Yes, there's a big banner up in the corner of Kenilworth Road saying Luton Town betrayed by the FA in 2008, which I think probably is referring to the -30 points that they had to start on that particular season. But yes, I was there at Luton. I will give you my thoughts on the game. We will also be hearing from Gareth Ainsworth, who just after the game I spoke to him.
And we'll be catching up with Chairman Rob Couhig, who Phil has been speaking to as well on his podcast, getting his thoughts on fans in stadiums and the financial sort of state of the club, I guess.
We will be hearing from Wycombe Wanderers Sports and Education Trust's Head of Health, Sam White, about their brand new Doorsteppers campaign.
Great stuff in the community as well. Plus, we'll be catching up with legendary goalkeeper John Maskell, who played for the club between 1964 and 1980, barely missed a game, and not only that, but he made 753 appearances.
That's a lot of appearances.
It's a lot of appearances, isn't it?
Yes. Is he related to Dan Maskell, by the way?
I didn't ask.
No, sorry, I'm going to keep thinking that, just seeing his name.
He's from the Oxfordshire village of Toot.
Oh, okay. Not one that I've come across, I have to confess. Very
nice pub there, apparently. So let's kick off with news of Luton, or news at Luton. Sort of overall, how did you think the performance went?
So definitely we were in it the whole game. It wasn't like Swansea, and it wasn't like the last 75 minutes of the Blackburn game where you thought, yeah, okay, you can really see the golfing class between the two teams. This very much felt like a League One fixture. We were in it the whole time. We competed the whole time. Had a couple of the refereeing decisions gone our way. Definitely you do notice in the Championship, and Alan Parry said this to me at half-time during the Swansea game.
Name dropper?
Yes, sorry. They're not really name-dropping, because, everyone sees Alan Parry around Adams Park, and he chats to anyone, in the same way that now the Couhigs do. If you see Pete Couhig, he comes over and has a chat to you. Anyway, yeah. Alan very much said, it is going to be just like in the Premier League. If you're a new team in the Premier League, all of the 50 decisions, particularly if you're playing a bigger team, you don't get them. And, sure enough, time and again against Swansea, definitely, particularly in the lead up to the first Swansea goal, I felt, we definitely should have had a free kick. But no, of course, that got waved away. And similarly, again, at Kenilworth Road, I know Luton haven't been in the Championship for that long, but clearly, once again, they were favouring the team that had been in the Championship longer, because all of the 50-50 decisions seemed to go Luton's way. And whenever you thought we might have had a free kick, it seemed to be just waved away by the referee, who was Graham Scott, who, of course, is a Premier League official. So I think we could have, maybe felt slightly aggrieved with regards to some of the decisions.
And there was a disallowed goal, of course.
Yes, indeed. And, I think we can feel very aggrieved about that, because it did look very, very close. As Gareth says, as you're going to hear on the clip in a minute, who would be a referee. But at the same time, they are there to do a job. It did look close. And I think what was even more sort of galling about it was that the referee actually did dangle a little bit of hope by, the linesman flagged, the assistant referee flagged. The referee then decided to walk over, and so you thought, possibly he's going to overrule his assistant referee. But no, of course he didn't. And so, yes, Scott Cashkett's goal did not stand. And, of course, then Luton went straight down the other end and scored the second. And that was it.
Because previously we heard from Gareth after, obviously, Rotherham and Blackburn and Swansea. And there have been some chances created. Was that something which happened at Kenilworth Road as well?
Yeah, I mean, we did have chances. without really actually ever having a decent shot on target. There wasn't really a moment where you thought, oh yes, other than obviously the disallowed goal, that was the chance. Daryl Horgan always looks dangerous. Whenever he is involved, you always think, oh yes, in that way that with Kashket, with Fred Onyedinma, you always think, oh, we've got a chance at the moment. So I really like Daryl. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. I think he is the one that is going to break the duck eventually. Obviously, he's got the only goal anyway so far this season because he scored in the Carabao Cup against Brentford. But yeah, long may he be on the pitch, because Daryl is the one that I think he will get the first goal. If I was taking part in a poll, I would put his name down.
We should do that as a poll.
We should, yes. Yeah, maybe we'll do that for next week's poll, because we have already got this week's poll.
Yes. We'll still be. Well, hopefully we'll be talking about a goal. Well, we won't be, will we? Because there won't have been a game.
No, that's true. That's true. There won't have been a game next week because we are now in the international break.
Next week's poll, who do you think will get the first goal?
England playing Wales tonight.
Yes.
Anyone excited about that? I can't say that I am particularly. Sorry.
No, because it's a friendly, isn't it?
Well, exactly. It's, and it's strange how they're now trying to fit 3 friendlies into the international break. You can just imagine all of the Premier League managers are going to be moaning even more than they normally do.
Yes, and some of the Championship managers maybe.
And definitely the Championship managers, yes. And even after the friendlies, it's only the Nations League, isn't it?
Of course. Talking of Championship managers, as Bob alluded to a short while ago, he caught up with Gareth after the Luton game to get his thoughts.
Gareth, you went toe-to-toe today with a team that is now in the top 5 in the Championship.
Yeah, I'm brilliant. I think we've played 3 of the top 6, have we? So it's been crazy so far. Do you know what, though? I thought we had chances today. I thought we could have been better. The scoreline could have been more favourable to us. But now Luton's put it in the back of the net. We have to make sure that we do. We can't spurn these chances because we've hit the post twice. That's a soft target. And 2 cracking saves from the keeper. Again, we've got to make it more difficult for the opposition to score goals. We scored 1, but it was adjudged offside. I don't think it is, but who'd be a referee? Who'd be a linesman? We've conceded 2 anyway, so it might not have made too much of a difference. What we've got to do now is make sure that for Millwall we're competitive, and I'll be doing that in the transfer market and with the injuries returning. I think we've got some big players, Ikpeazu, Akinfenwa, Gape, Tafazoli, all needing to come back into the frame. And plus I'm trying to bring a couple of players in. I've got some targets. If I can get them, that'd be fantastic. Let's see what happens.
You said who would be a referee. Would you agree that there's a lot of 50-50 challenges that are going against us at the moment, and possibly we're in that situation that so many teams in the Premier League find themselves when they've gone up and actually the decisions are going to the bigger clubs?
Mm-hmm. I'm not allowed to say that, but you brought it up, so I'll have a look at that and see what my findings are. But we're Wycombe Wanderers in the Championship. People are still amazed. Are they giving us the credit we deserve? Who knows? We'll see. But one thing's for sure, we'll be making the right fight to stay in this Championship. I'm loving it. I'm loving the experiences. I'm loving the learning we're getting, and just want some of my players now to understand that to be at this level, it's tough. They've got to work on every aspect of the game, and I've got to work them on every aspect of the game. I can't ask for any more effort, but effort and spirit alone gets you out of League 1, League 2. We need to work on our quality now. We need to work on that hitting the target. We need to work on them absolute vital details that come up in games. Me, my staff, all the players, we're all in this together. There'll never be them and us, ever. It's always together, and I love being the manager, and I've got a great squad in there. They're absolutely devastated, but I know they're ready to go against Millwall.
It does sound, we probably say this each week, but really positive to hear Gareth speaking, and interesting to see that he's got some targets to bring in still.
Yes, absolutely. And of course that was recorded before Josh Knight came in from Leicester City. He is a highly rated defender, will wear the number 12 shirt. We've only got him until the 3rd of January, but that's better than nothing.
Absolutely, so hopefully that'll reduce the goal count against.
Indeed, yes. He played for Peterborough United last season. He scored at Adams Park in a 3-3 draw with Peterborough. It's been a regular in Leicester's under-23 side for the past 4 years. And so, yes, it'll be interesting to see whether he starts against Millwall.
Yeah, definitely. Could be an ideal game for him to come in, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, games against Millwall, again, that's another one you have to look at and you think, well, that's a game that we could get some points from. There are definitely certain games that you look at and you think, well, yeah, we're going to have to be really, really good on that day to get anything. Millwall definitely isn't one of those. They forever seem to struggle struggle in the Championship. And so I think, you hope, fingers crossed, we might get our first points.
Because we were looking before you came on air, and October's looking quite. Well, I suppose many of the months are looking quite tough. But two relegated teams. You've got Watford and Norwich coming up. Reading, of course, as well this month. And
I think it's just the brutal amount of games. It just really suddenly is. Saturday, Tuesday. I think there's possibly one Wednesday game in there. And yes, I know that Gareth says, well, we're used to that. We've had that in League One, we've had that in League Two, where then you end up playing the EFL Trophy games as well. But clearly in the EFL Trophy, with all due respect to that competition, it's one of those. If you start, if you've lost a game, you probably straight away write it off and think, right, okay, well, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, if you're doing well, then yes, it does give you a chance to get to Wembley. But what I'm saying is it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Whereas clearly, this year, it is just going to be Championship games all the way through. Obviously, we're already at the League Cup, we've got the FA Cup, but other than that, our bread and butter is going to be Championship League games, and they are going to be tough. And as you rightly say, there's two relegated teams there, Norwich and Watford, and that isn't going to be easy at all.
No, definitely not. Coming up in a few moments' time, we'll get the thoughts of Chairman Rob Couhig. But first, we touched on at the beginning, we do have a poll this evening, which you can tell us about the details of.
And it really comes from something that Rob Couhig speaks to Phil about, which is the ridiculous situation currently with regards to yes, you can go to the cinema, you can go to the pub and watch football, but you can't actually go to a football stadium and watch football. So do you think that you should be allowed in Adams Park to watch football at the moment? All we're looking for is a yes or a no. You can take part on Twitter. You can find us simply by searching Wycombe Sound on Twitter. Our Twitter handle, I believe it is called, is at Wycombe Sound.
Yes, we use the hashtag TWWS as well. How's the poll looking so far?
So last time I looked, it was looking at 80% of people currently saying yes, 20% of people saying no. You have 39 minutes left to take part in the poll.
Because early on it was a slightly different split, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
66
and we did. We had a 66 and a 75. We've now got an 80-20 split. Be interested in those as well who aren't comfortable, and that's absolutely fine. I know I've just said it was ridiculous and whatever. I'm completely understand if you're one of those people who thinks, well, no, actually, I don't want to be going to football at the moment. I don't, I'm not confident enough. I feel a bit worried with regards to COVID. That's fine. And, and I completely respect and understand people who say that. What I think is ridiculous is just the rules at the moment. The fact that, yes, you can go to the pub. The fact that we're being encouraged at the moment now very much to go to the cinema, and yet you can't go to football, and football is outdoors. And you would think, well, that seems a lot safer. It reminds me a little bit of Boris's thing about cricket, where he suddenly seemed to have a real bee in his bonnet about the fact that cricket wasn't going to be allowed back, and lots of other sports were. And then suddenly, somebody clearly had a little word in his ear, and he then said, oh yeah, okay, all right, you can play cricket after all. And I wonder, fingers crossed, I hope that is going to happen, where suddenly we are going to see fans allowed back in. Whether or not that happens, we'll have to wait and see.
So let's get the thoughts from the chairman, Rob Couhig, speaking to Phil Catchpole on his podcast, Ringing the Blues.
We knew it would be tough, but it's exciting, isn't it? The football is so spectacular. The quality of the athletes, the quality of the clubs you play. The only regret is that our fans are not able to be there live and see it. The good news is they're watching on iFollow and the various other means, and are still being very supportive of the club.
The promotion to the Championship, in these incredible circumstances that we find ourselves in, not just in football, but in life at the moment, is it a case of trying to keep the powder dry a bit as well? Because it's an enormous amount of money for being in the Championship by Wycombe standards. Is it a case of using that money to keep the long-term, future of the club prosperous, rather than sort of spending it now on players to try and stay in a division that's quite a big leap?
Yeah. Now, look, we think we can stay in this division. Nothing has changed about that. But we're not going to go spend money such that in February we're reaching around. I'm prepared. Missy and I are prepared to put money in, but that is not a long-term cure to a club. The fact that we have got to deal with our fans and some of the fact that they've put up money and the like, we need to be prepared for that. The failure to allow fans into these games is going to have a crushing, devastating effect that simply allowing government to write a check or the Premier League to write a check won't cure it. So we have to be ready. Phil, I think people have gotten to know me enough to know that in crisis there's always an opportunity, and we're going to have that opportunity. We're going to use our money right, and we're going to be at the end of this year, regardless of circumstances, a club that is standing. And it's my expectation is we'll be standing in the Championship League.
Even after that first 4 games, where a lot of fans have been sort of quite blown away by the big step up from League One.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I'm totally honest, I thought we would have a couple of points by now, but that deviation from what my early expectations are and where we are is so insignificant in terms of a 46-game schedule as not to worry about. What I look at is the team progressing? And it is in every measure except production on the pitch. We have gotten more depth. We have gotten more talent. We are cohesive. The squad is solidly together. And once we get through some of these injuries and the like, I think we're in actually pretty good shape. And we'll have the depth to compete with virtually anybody in the league as we move down past this international period. Whether it translates into points or not, I can't predict. That's the one thing I have learned about English football. In a microsecond, the game changes, the points change, it all changes. But what we can do is put in a solid base, and that's what we're doing.
And when it comes to finances, I mean, going back to when all this started off, when there was huge debates about whether football could continue last season and should the season have been played out, we're now seeing the financial impact on clubs in and around the Football League, the National League, League 2, League 1. Have Wycombe been proved right with their decision to vote against the not playing out the season? I mean, along with many, many other clubs, but, there's still clubs in League One who still bemoaning the fact that Wycombe, in their eyes, finished 8th in the Championship.
And I never did understand this claiming that we were 8th when we had played one less game than everybody else. That's just a difference in how we calculate here in America from there. So, yeah, from an economic standpoint, and again, this was the benefit of having been through a disaster myself, in which my entire city had faced similar issues. The first thing you have to do when you're in a hole is stop digging. And so that's what we were preaching, and I think we've been right. I think the second thing we've done that is probably different from some clubs is we have taken some of the new money that we have gotten in, either through advancement to the championship or the spectacular job our commercial people are doing, is we're putting it back into infrastructure that will produce revenue. The traditional model is you go out and you buy a big-time striker and you spend all your money on a guy who may play a full year for you or 5 years for you, but may just as easily have a twisted ankle and you get no production from it. By us putting our money into things that will ultimately produce revenue without worrying about injury, whether it's the entire Wi-Fi of the stadium, the new online stores, the worldwide Wycombe phenomenon that has actually been sensationally good in this shutdown period. It allows us to build a revenue base that will allow us to be sustainable in the championship and begin to lay the basis for even better days.
So there's great work going on around the stadium. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be able to get to match days. I can see the new floodlights and I can see the work that's going on around the stadium. So when fans do come back, albeit it may be in a staggered effect, talk us through the changes that fans will expect to see when they do get back to Adams Park, whenever that may be. Well,
as you drive into the stadium, you'll see that the Chairboys Village will be massively improved. You'll see the Wanderers Wall along the side of the stadium. If you have the opportunity, you'll be able to see the tunnel that brings people into the stadium has all been redone. We will actually have a portal in the tunnel, so you'll be able to see the players and you'll be able to do this on TV as well, be able to see the players from both sides, the managers, the coaches, as they're lined up in the tunnel before the game. You'll come into the stadium. You'll see, of course, our LED boards surrounding it. You will see, ultimately, little things you won't see, the CCTV that will go all the way down to the foot of the hill as you're walking up so we can make sure everybody's safe. You'll be able to see the floodlights. You'll sit in your seat. You'll have tremendous Wi-Fi, second to none in any stadium in the UK. You'll have 65 brand new video boards throughout. We're still trying to get in the big video boards for the stadium. The list goes on and on. But in each and every instant, the audio system will be spectacular. How can you have a rock and roll football club if you don't have rock and roll type audio? And we're going to have that, and innumerable safety features being incorporated along the way. So the exciting days. The tragedy is who gets to see it except for Pete and Matt and Neil. You know, it's and you on game days. It's but the good news, and I always try and find good news, is all of this work is not yet complete. Frankly, it's slowed down a little bit because there's no rush to get it done right now. But we would expect it all to be finished by the 1st of November or thereabouts. And hopefully by that time, people have come to their senses and said, you know what, if you can go to a pub and socially distance at the pub, you certainly can go to an outside football stadium, which has a safety officer, which has numerous people dedicated to the safety of the fans, stewards to make sure that you don't violate the rules and be able to go see a football game.
What work has been done really for sort of the, I know, say, for example, 25%? Is there a plan in place for the club if the government do say, right, 25% of your stadium, you know, available from the next home game? Is there a plan in place for getting that in action and who would be able to get there?
Yes. Ben Griffith, who we hired specifically to work on this, has gone through every permeation. He and David Cook, who's our safety officer, Kelly Francis, who's our COVID officer, and, of course, Pete and Matt and Neil. But we have it so that it is lined up and ready to go. If they told us we could play on Monday, we have our first 2,344 people in an itemized list. They can be contacted. They can be told where they can sit. We've done the homework to find out who lives in whose homes and the like, and are ready to go. Now, Ben will probably kill me. He'd probably say I need a couple more days, but technically we're ready to go.
Fascinating to hear from Rob Couhig, and you can hear more of that interview on Ringing the Blues with Phil, his podcast.
And do take part in our Twitter poll tonight, asking you whether you think you should be allowed back into Adams Park. Currently, 81% of people are saying yes, whereas 19% of people are saying no. You can find it on Twitter. The hashtag is TWWS.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderer Show, we'll be catching up with legendary goalkeeper John Maskell, and we'll be hearing about a great initiative from the Sports and Education Trust.
Love music, love talk, love Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on the Wycombe Wanderers show, we will be hearing from Sam White, who is Wycombe Wanderers Sports and Education Trust's Head of Health, about their brand new Doorsteppers campaign.
Well done, that was harder to say than you possibly imagined, I think.
Indeed, yes it was.
But also, we're continuing our theme on chatting with former Wycombe Wanderers players. I must say a massive thank you to the Ex-Players Association, JDT, and Alan Hutchison, really helping out. Already this series, we've spoken to Len Worley, who is a legendary winger from the 50s. We've spoken to Glyn Creaser, of course, who led the club to the Football League as well. And I've also been chatting to John Maskell, who made 753 appearances in goal for the club between 1964 and 1980.
I mean, going back to when I was 14, nearly 15, I was quite a big lad, and I played for the local village side, Ensham, which is West Oxfordshire, and we had a very good side. I mean, in those days, most village sides had good sides because there was things such as transport, and, of course, the money wasn't around as well. So I played with some really good players at 14 for the Ensham first team, men, and we won things like the County Cup, the District Cup, and It was the 57 Cup final, Amateur Cup final, and again, in those days, people used to get coach loads up from various villages around the counties to go to the Amateur Cup final, and hence, there was 95,000 there that day when Wycombe played. And I managed to get a ticket to go and watch them. Well, of course, it was a fantastic occasion for me to watch my heroes, really, I suppose, but they lost in the end, and there was 95,000 there. And little did I know, but a few years later, I'd actually played with three of those players, Paul Bates, Len Worley, and Jim Truitt. And so I went on from playing in village football to Oxford United. Well, Oxford United was Headington in those days, and played for their youth team, and we had a great run in the FA Youth Cup. And then I went to Oxford City and played there for nearly 2 seasons. An amazing coincidence again that my first game for Oxford City first team was against Wycombe on Boxing Day down at the White House in Oxford, and we drew 1-1. And a couple of years later, it was very strange how I actually arrived at Wycombe, because I was playing for Oxford City, as I say, and a friend of mine who was playing for Wycombe Reserves, he said to me, "Why don't you come to Wycombe?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm happy at Oxford City, I'm in the first team, blah, blah, blah." And he kept saying to me, "Look," and he was one of my best mates, and we used to go out socially, so I said, "Well, I don't mind." So he said, "Well, come for a trial." And in those days, they had trials. Anyway, I went for this trial, and the manager was Don Welsh. I think he was a manager before Bill Shankly at Liverpool. And then he went to Bournemouth, and he ended up at Wycombe. And I met Don Welsh, and I played him one half, I think it was, and it was 0-0. I didn't get anything to do, and Don said to me afterwards, "Well, look, we've got 3 keepers, so, you're settled at Oxford City, so we'll leave it at that." So I went back to Oxford City, and then less than a week before the first game of the season, I got a call from Alan saying, "Can you ring Don Welsh?" And I went to see Don Welsh, and he signed me on there and then. He said, "Look, we've got keeper's broken his hand or something. The other one was away, and the other one was down with flu, and I want you to play on the Saturday." So I played. And of course, it was a really top side we were playing at that time, Kingstonians, and we drew 1-1 with 10 men, because the captain got carried off after 10 minutes, and of course there was no substitutes in those days. So, yeah, I played quite well, as I was saying myself, and I never really looked back, and I played all those seasons from then on, and of course under several different managers.
I bet you could have never imagined, though, that you'd have been representing the club on over 700 occasions.
No, you're right. Just playing the one-off, and fortunately for me, like all keepers, if you're under pressure, you get plenty to do, then you look good, sort of thing. So I was lucky, and of course, the crowd in those days, I think it was over 3,000 even for a game like that, and they were very supportive, and they obviously took to me, and I was very fortunate. And as I say, all those years, different managers, and each manager that came, to be fair, they all got reserve goalkeepers or squad goalkeepers, which they thought were good enough to play. But fortunately, I kept my place.
So I understand you got quite an injury in a short time after joining the club, but pretty much never present for such a long period as well.
Yeah, I think it was the season I joined. We played away in the FA Cup. I think it was Walton and Hersham, and it was Hayes. Sorry, I correct myself. And I broke my ankle I suppose it was about the 10th, 11th minute, and we got absolutely stuffed because obviously there was no subs, and I was carried off to hospital, and I think Tony Horseman, he went in goal, and then Keith Samuels, they changed a couple of times, but I think we lost by 6 or 7, I can't remember.
And especially over such a long period, you must have such great memories and highlights to pick out, but I guess obviously the FA Cup replay against Middlesbrough in 75 is one that stands out. Yeah,
of course it does, yeah. I mean, although, having said that, the leading up to it, where we beat Newport, we beat Bournemouth after a replay, was quite good, but Middlesbrough, when we were drawn against Middlesbrough, they were top of the first division then at that stage with Jack Jolton. And they had plenty of internationals like Souness and Bobby Murdoch, played for Scotland. They were a really good side. And it was interesting because Brian Lee at the time, the manager, he knew Jack Jolton and he knew the football, the standard and everything. And he said to us, I think it was a bit of a con trick really, because he said to us, as good as you are, because we did have a good team, there's no question, you'll get a spanking against these because these are no nonsense professional side. But of course, all that did really with the characters that we had in our side was spur us on really, if anything. And we really should have won. And it was a slight disappointment for me because it was on the big match. Brian Moore did the commentary from the boardroom at Wycombe. It was on the big match on television. I thought I'd get loads to do, and of course, I think I had one shot, and we were well on top, and we should have really won. And then, of course, Jack Jolton said, if we get you on a flat pitch on Tuesday, it'll be a different story. But it wasn't, because we hung on in there, and they scored in the last couple of minutes, I think it was.
Obviously, your position of being goalkeeper must have helped, but what do you think are some of the factors that kept you at the club for such a long period?
Well, if you ask me, if I was a manager looking for a goalkeeper, the first thing I'd do is, one, look for a character, but somebody who was consistent, because doing the bread and butter stuff, as they call it, is the main thing. Crosses, coming out, being brave, they're all important things. Flying across the goal, tipping the ball over the bar, and they come once in 3 games, and it's the straightforward stuff that I would like a goalkeeper to be, and certainly consistency is the main thing. I think you give that, if you can give your defenders that feeling of confidence, then I think it goes a long way, and you don't have to be flashy. I watched goalkeepers today and I think, well, why did they actually dive? A lot of them will dive and just punch the ball out when they really and truly, if they'd have moved their feet, they probably could have caught it. But on the other hand, I sympathise with goalkeepers because they're the people that get the stick if they make a mistake. Obviously, it normally results in a goal. Whereas a centre-forward can miss 3 sitters and, they forget that if he gets the winner, and that's the thing.
It really seems to be a position as well that Wycombe have been so lucky with over the years. Obviously, yourself, the likes of John Granville, Paul Hyde and Martin Taylor, to name but 3.
Yeah. They've always had good goalkeepers, yeah. They've always had good goalkeepers, and I think that says it all, really. That's why they've been so successful, because you can't win anything without a good goalkeeper. You just cannot win anything without a good goalkeeper. And I'll make a prediction now that Aston Villa will not struggle this year, and I made this 3 or 4 games ago, that they won't struggle this year so much because they've got a good goalkeeper. And they have got a good goalkeeper. And they've just bought this guy, and you can't win anything. Brian Lee used to say you can't win anything unless you've got a goalkeeper who performs consistently, and that's right. Because I don't think, I don't want to say I'm like an old player, but I don't think there's so many good goalkeepers around nowadays. I really don't. And it seems as though a lot of them are continental goalkeepers, and we all know they've always been the same. They're quite agile and flash, but not so good when it comes to the bravery.
Yeah, no, definitely. It seems strange, doesn't it? The sort of the changing style of a goalkeeper seems to be more with their feet now and less with their hands.
Yeah, they do. You're right. And I'm not so sure I could do what they do. Some of them are really good with their feet. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because my lads said to me, well, Dad, the difference between playing in goal when you played and now is the fact that the ball moves around, which it does. It's lighter. But I don't go along with that. I mean, I've watched games where goalkeepers have had fantastic games, and because of that, because they're they've got their confidence up, they catch the ball. They actually catch the ball. And this guy I just mentioned at Aston Villa, he tries to catch the ball. I think that should be your first thought. I've always said when I coach youngsters, goalkeepers, is your first thought should be, can I catch the ball? That should be your first, not I'm going to punch this, because that's the big change nowadays. I think the first thought is, I'm going to punch this to safety, or just punch it anywhere. And that is the big change in goalkeeping, yeah.
And why is it that attracted you to the position in the first place? Because I know when I was at school, hardly anyone wanted to go in goal.
No, that's right. I played, actually, I was school captain, believe it or not, a centre-half. And I enjoyed it on the pitch. A bit slow, but I enjoyed it and got away with it at centre-half, obviously. And then I played for the youth club, Ensham, and we had a guy there who came to help us out. We had a football side, Ensham Youth Club side, and somebody invited this guy down called, you might not remember him, but Vic Rouse, his name was. He was a Crystal Palace goalkeeper, really good goalkeeper. And Vic had come to Oxford United and played for Oxford United for a few games, and then he was coach there. And he came over and he said to me, go in goal. You know, just would you like to have a go in goal and see how you get on? And of course, I went in goal, and I quite enjoyed it actually. So from that point on, so it was Vic Rouse really who convinced me to go in goal. So from that point on, I played in goal, and as I say, I got into the men's team at Ensham, and thoroughly enjoyed it.
So you mentioned that you couldn't have imagined that you'd have been playing for the club over 700 times, but I guess it would also have been even more staggering to learn that in the year 2000s that Wycombe had reached the second tier of English football.
Oh, unbelievable. You know, Wycombe supporters, they've always been, I think they've always been some of the best supporters around, and they really are behind the club. And I think the club, on the other hand, have actually put something back for the supporters, because if you look at the different eras, the different decades, Wycombe have always had some sort of success or been involved in something exciting, and that's gone all the way through. Certainly when Martin O'Neill took over, that was a great era, and I used to go and watch, and they had some great players, and he really set the scene. Well, I suppose, thinking about it, the 57 side, then you had the 60s side, then the 70s side, then the 80s. Not so much the 80s, but they still reached the semi-final of the trophy. And then the 90s, as you say, were brilliant in the year 2000. And who would have said they got to the semi-final of the FA Cup? Absolutely magnificent achievement that was. And of course, then you got the latest ones where you got Gareth came in, and he really has achieved wonders. And, you know, the players, all credit to them. They've got to this the championship, and yeah, they've had a bit of luck on the way. I think Gareth would be the first to say that, but they've worked hard, great team spirit, and they've got there, and nobody can take that away from them. And also, they've started off where people making them favourites for relegation. Well, it's difficult, isn't it? It's a big step up. You know, they've got to get adjusted. I think they've got to start believing they can win games as well, because once you start on a losing run, I would imagine, not that I've experienced it, but I would imagine it's difficult to change it. But I think they'll come round. I hope they do anyway, because they've got a good set of lads.
No, it does seem a really exciting time to be following the club. And talk us through a bit what you've been doing sort of post-Wycombe, because I know that you had obviously stayed in the game with managing it and coaching as well.
Yeah, my claim to fame is I actually, John Delaney and myself, we took over from Bobby Moore and Harry Redknapp at Oxford City, because they were in charge. Bobby was the manager and Harry was the assistant, and obviously they spent a lot of money and got a lot of ex-pros playing for them, but they struggled, and in the end they resigned, and John Delaney and myself took over. We were there about, 18 months, I suppose, and then I think the money dried up. Although, when I say the money dried up, when we took over, the wage bill was halved. But it was a very sad time, really, when you have to say to players like Phil Beale, who played for Spurs, as you know, he was a centre-half, I'm sorry, Phil, but we've got to let you go because you haven't got the money, sort of thing. And we got a load of youngsters in, local youngsters, and some of those went on to do well. I mean, Kevin Durham, you remember Kevin Durham?
Yeah, certainly.
Oh, Kevin, I actually, it was strange. I went to watch a left-back. I saw Kevin playing, and I asked him afterwards, he was playing for Presteel at the time, a local side. I asked him to come down, and he played at Oxford City under me, and then he went on to better things. He went to Wycombe and then went to Barnet, I think it was. He was a really good player.
And it must be feeling fantastic for you to have, as you say, played over 700 appearances and to be such a key part in the club's history, which recently marked 133 years.
Yeah, I'm really proud, really. But I'm just privileged, really, to have played for them and also played with such great players. And I've played with some really good players that have gone on to make the big time, really, like Kenny Swain, Viv Busby. I mean, they all gone on to bigger things. And I've kept in touch with them all as much as I can, and it really is amazing. Even now I get calls from, Derek Gamblin, the right back, rang me the other day. I mean, he lives down the other side of Southampton, just to see how everything was and, have a chat.
That's a fantastic story. It's been brilliant to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time and great to share your memories.
Okay, thank you very much.
Really enjoyed chatting to John, and fantastic. The 753 appearances over such a lengthy period as well.
Yeah, I mean, a huge period of time. If you think from before England won the World Cup all the way through to 1980 and then continuing on in football as well. What a period to be involved.
And even Emiliano Martinez and Villa got a mention just to demonstrate how important keepers are for clubs.
Absolutely, and fascinating that he took over from Bobby Moore and Harry Redknapp at Oxford City as well. Thank you very much too, John. That was really good. Still to come on the Wycombe Wanderers show, we will be hearing from Sam White, who is the head of health at the Wycombe Wanderers Supporters and Education Trust, about their new Doorsteppers campaign.
Love music, love talk, love Wycombe Sound.
Who said you can't buy happiness? A healthy pet is a happy pet. So prove to your pet that you're pretty savvy by shopping at Unique Pets. Unique Pets is an online shop offering a wide range of pet supplies, delivering in the Wycombe area. A leading supplier of raw food, we also specialise in holistic health and natural treats. Get 10% off your first order using the code Wycombe Sound 10. Why, that's 70% in dog money. Find us online at uniquepets.co.uk.
COVID is a virus that likes to spread. By taking these simple steps, you can protect yourself and those you love and stop it in its tracks. Limit social groups to 6 or less. Keep a 2-metre distance between you and others. Wash your hands regularly and wear a face covering or mask. If you have a high temperature, new continuous cough, or your sense of smell and taste changes, self-isolate immediately and call 119 to book a test. Together, we can all stay safe and protect Buckinghamshire.
Love WhatsApp, love Wycombe Sound. Use WhatsApp to message us. Just send your message to 01494 449900. Go on, give it a try. Drive Time on the multi-award-winning Wycombe Sound.
Trending on social media this evening. World Teacher Day today.
Here.
Did you have a favourite teacher at school?
Mr. Barry.
And what did he teach you?
Drama. My innkeeper in the Nativity was the talk school for many years.
Any reasons why?
For some reason, even at the age of, I think it was 12, I played him drunk. The sign said drunk, and the sign above the inn was Drunken Duncan's. I don't know where I got that from. Yeah.
Nice. I was the innkeeper as well.
Oh, we've got so much in common, and yet we're so very, very different.
You know the famous line, no room in the inn. I shouted it really loudly and bowed.
Why'd you bow?
I don't know.
Did you think that was your big line, and you thought you were going to get a huge standing ovation, like you'd just sung the big number in a musical?
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for.
There's no room at the inn. I thank you so much.
Drive Time.
What's that? Olivier's? Yes. Bring me 3.
Back tomorrow from 4. This is Wycombe Sound.
Must give a special mention to Wycombe Wanderers ladies, of course, who have their rearranged FA Cup fixture against Comets away on Sunday, owing to the fact that the last Sunday when it was rained off.
Oh, because it was meant to be the beginning of the league campaign, but
yes,
that's been postponed now because of the FA Cup, hasn't it?
Yes, so that's then now next Sunday, and we'll be chatting to Captain Charlotte Bagshall in the coming weeks about that. Must say a special hello to her, because she said she's listened to every show so far.
Oh, that's very nice. Hello! Thank you for listening to every show so far. Hello to everyone who's listened to every show so far.
Indeed, thank you so much.
Grateful.
Yeah, Charlotte and the rest of the Wycombe Wanderers ladies train on a Thursday night, so probably on their way there now.
Yes, indeed. We are now going to talk about the Wycombe Wanderers Sports and Education Trust. Colin's been catching up with Sam White, who is their head of health, finding out about their new Doorsteppers campaign.
Doorsteppers was an idea we thought of at the start of lockdown, really. So just supporting people that might be quite fearful of COVID, but also feeling a bit isolated, lonely, or it might be exacerbating those mental health conditions that they might already be experiencing. And essentially we put in an application to the National Lottery Communities Fund, who very fortunately funded our project. So yeah, we are just about to start the project, so we are recruiting now. And essentially it is kind of what it says on the tin, that we come to your doorstep and speak to you and sort of give you that sort of listening ear, helping hand, and just support you, and also give a little bit of befriending, really.
It's a fantastic initiative. Who is it actually aimed at?
So it's aimed at anyone over the age of 18. We realise, a lot of sort of befriending services are typically pushed towards older people, but we are doing anyone over the age of 18. It is a national pandemic, so we are sort of trying to help as many people as we can through this difficult time, really.
And it must be really nice for anyone of literally any age to receive a visit from someone from the Sport and Education Trust as well, to sort of feel like they're in touch with the football club especially.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously we have that good link with the club, and depending on who you get, if you get myself, unfortunately I know nothing about football, but definitely my other colleagues do. So yeah, you can have a good chat with them about the club and what we're doing in the club.
But again, often it's just really nice to see a friendly face, isn't it? And as you say, someone to chat to and just talk about things that might be bothering someone, or as you say, if they are struggling with loneliness or just feeling a bit down.
Yeah, most definitely. I think everyone sort of just needs someone that they can feel that they can talk to, especially if you don't feel like you have that, if you haven't got family close or friends close, then we can try and be that next best thing for you. And obviously our staff are all trained in mental health first aid as well, so they can really support you through that process, and obviously just give you some hints and tips and coping strategies and stuff like that to sort of help you through this time.
It must be so rewarding as well for you and your team to know that you could literally make quite such a difference for someone who hasn't perhaps seen someone or had someone to talk to for quite a while.
Yeah, it's definitely the warm fuzzy feeling that we get from our job most of the time, really. It's just so nice to get out there and, for us even, just to meet new people and try and help wherever we can.
And a really nice way of introducing the sort of work that you do as well, because people may not be aware of the Sports and Education Trust and what it is and what you do.
I think a lot of people know us for our after-school clubs and our elite development academies and all of the sort of kids and football stuff that we do. But yeah, there is other sides to us as such. So we have our social inclusion department, education, and my department, which is health. So a lot of community work, getting out there and supporting our local community in various different projects and activities.
So if people would like to receive a visit or know someone who would really benefit from that, how can they get in touch?
They can visit our website, or they can get in contact with me, so through my email, so sam.white@wwfc.com.
And is this quite a long-term project? You hope to obviously keep quite a commitment with these people and visit them quite regularly?
Yeah, so Doorsteppers itself is a 6-month project, but it filters in quite nicely to another mental health project that I run called Keep Moving Forward. So if people still, feel that they need that extra support, then we can hopefully get them to a place where they feel confident going to our other group sessions. And then, hopefully keep them engaged and keep them involved in lots of different things. During this time at the moment, we've got a couple of sessions over Zoom, so an Indian club session and a yoga group, but we also have a walking group, which we are now fortunately able to do face-to-face. So there are some activities going on in the community that they can get involved in as well.
And just finally, what's the main message you'd like to get across to people about the Doorsteppers campaign and the work that you're doing?
Especially with Doorsteppers, I think if you are someone that is struggling and staying at home quite a lot and feel that you would love for someone to come around and have a chat, then please do get in touch with us. Or if you know someone that you feel is getting a bit more isolated and could do with a friend and a helping hand, again, just let us know and we can get in touch with them as well.
Great to hear from Sam White, who is Head of Health at the Wycombe Wanderers Sports and Education Trust.
What a fantastic initiative, and how wonderful that Wycombe Wanderers, and I know lots of football clubs do these sort of things, but I think it just goes to show how wonderful the football community is, that actually, something that they really don't have to do. You don't have to be coming up with an initiative like the Doorsteppers initiative, where yes, it's basically a befriending service that you can get in touch with them. If you're feeling lonely, how wonderful that yes, that they're doing this in this sort of time, when you don't have to. We could just be completely concentrating on the football, but actually, yes, we're supporting the community as well.
They do so much other great work as well. They've got half-term camps coming up. They do after-school clubs. They do in-school clubs, I think. And as I say, so many other sort of great stuff in the community as well.
It's brilliant. It really is good. And it annoys me when football gets bashed, and football obviously gets bashed quite a lot, particularly with regards to salaries and things like that, because actually there's so much that football does that, that various other areas of society and employment, would never dream of doing, because they think, no, it's not making us any money, so why should we do that? But, Wycombe Wanderers, yeah, okay, let's do the Doorsteppers campaign. Great.
No, it is fantastic. So yeah, do watch out for hopefully someone coming to your doorstep, or someone that might be benefiting from a visit as well. This evening on our poll, we've been asking you the question whether you think it's time supporters should be allowed back into Adams Park, or maybe you feel it's a little early, and perhaps we should wait a little while longer while the coronavirus pandemic is still around, obviously.
Well, it's pretty damning, the results, shall we say. It's 90.9% of people saying yes, definitely we should be allowed back into the grounds. Only 9.1% of people saying no, it's too soon at the moment. So the consensus very much is yes, let us back in. And the club doing lots this week. In fact, the whole EFL writing an open letter basically this week saying that that fans should be allowed back into grounds, and that it doesn't make any sense really, the government's current advice that no, though grounds are still shut, but yes, you can go into pubs and you can go into cinemas, etc., etc.
It certainly does give a very strong argument, doesn't it? That indoor, as you say, venues are still accepting people. Outdoor, where it's due to be much safer, and as you say, it just seems strange, doesn't it?
It just does seem strange. It doesn't really add up, particularly then when with regards to the cinemas, and we had the news this week that obviously Cineworld is going to shut, for who knows how long, and straight away the Prime Minister's response to that seemed to be, oh, everyone must go to the cinema, and you think, well, why sort of is there one rule for them? And as soon as you've heard that bit of news, you're saying, right, okay, everyone's got to go to the cinema. Whereas with regards to football, and particularly at the moment, thinking, say, of Macclesfield Town, and I know that they had a lot of trouble, but beforehand. But COVID can't have helped at all, and now that's a club that has disappeared completely from football. Why isn't somebody like the Prime Minister saying, well, yeah, actually, okay, go and support your local football club. We'll allow you back in. I'm not talking about 100% capacity at all, but 25%, 30%,
even just season ticket holders,
whatever. I don't see what the problem would be with that.
You mentioned it earlier in the show as well. It seems such a shame, or quite lucky in a way, obviously, that Wycombe can financially benefit from being in the Championship, but you do feel so sorry for teams much lower down in the pyramid.
Definitely, and and Gareth has already said that to me a couple of times this season. Is that, well, goodness me, we could have so easily been one of those actually that is now financially struggling. Had certain things not happened, and how lucky we are. Yes, obviously, it's skill that's got us up into the Championship, but it couldn't have happened in a way at a better time, because yes, it means that actually we're going to be able to ride this out relatively comfortably, whereas if we were still in League One, I think it would be difficult, even with the Couhig's investment.
Many thanks indeed for taking part in the poll this evening. Fascinating to get your views. If you're listening on the podcast and you'd like to get some opinions to us, perhaps during the week, for us to cover on an upcoming show, you're very welcome to get in touch with us. You can tweet us at Wycombe Sound using the hashtag TWWS. You can email us, tws@wycombesound.org.uk.
TWWS.
Did I miss a W?
You did, yes.
Oh, apologies. TWWW. No, I've done too many now.
You've done too many now.
TWWS.
That's the one.
Is that enough W?
Yes, TWWS@wycombesound.org.uk. Otherwise it would go to the Wycombe show, and they wouldn't know what to do with it, would they? No. If you are listening, or if you fancy listening to this on a podcast and you want to hear the previous episodes, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're on Google Podcasts, you can get us via Radio Player, and we're also on Amazon as well. And the same goes for Phil Catchpole and his wonderful Ringing the Blues podcast as well. Many thanks to Phil, as always, for allowing us to play some of his content, his chat with Rob Couhig. You can hear that in full, and again, you can get Ringing the Blues on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or on Amazon.
I think they are well worth listening back to as well, because you might think, oh, they're previewing a game which has now happened, but there's fantastic chats with Glenn Creaser, as you say. Len Worley features as well, and always fantastic to hear Gareth's thoughts, and just the fact that you went to Blackburn instead of Blackpool is always...
Yes, well, I was lucky. I very nearly went to Blackpool. One other thing to say as well, if you are interested in the Doorsteppers campaign, just to give you the details about that, you can contact Sam. Her email address is sam.white@wwfc.com, or simply search for Wycombe Wanderers Doorsteppers on Google, and it does come up as the top result.
Ooh, great work. Look forward to your company again next week. We'll be previewing the Millwall game.
Yes, fingers crossed. I do think that's going to be the breakthrough game. That's going to be the goal and the point that we all crave.
We'll be having a poll next week for you to say who you think will get the first goal for Wycombe Wanderers in the 2021 season in the second tier of English football, as we will remain extremely optimistic that points and goals are just around the corner.
Daryl Horgan. That's who I'm going for.
Whereas, Daryl, if you're listening, Bob will be just around the corner, possibly while you're shopping.